Thank you, Heidi, for that wonderful burst of energy and that quick changing tempo. It got us all revved up, stirred up on this wonderful, lovely, lovely autumn morning. Welcome. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Whidbey Island. I'm Kate Nunn, and I will be your worship leader this morning. My gratitude goes out to all of those who have helped to bring this moment to being. Heidi Holting on the piano, our tech team, Sandy Welch, and we have Mavis on Zoom, Mavis Kaufman. Jane Hayes has provided refreshments. Please pick up one of her banana muffins as you head out after the service to the foyer to get information on the auction, which is coming up soon. So we really are going to get revved up. We're going to have that table out after the services every Sunday. You can get information on past donations. You can take a form and fill out your own. You can sign up to register. And we welcome visiting speaker Joseph Bednarik, who never fails to engage us in much-loved sermons which inspire and incite us to wonder and to dig a little deeper into those spiritual undercurrents in our lives. He's written a book recently, and it's called Invited to Speak, and you'll see copies out in the foyer. And also there is a copy, if you want to just take a look, in our library. I know, that's Tom Pocock, thank you. As we light our chalice, we take time to remember the ancestors' journey, lit by 1,000 stars, what the wilderness taught them. Blessed art thou, O Lord. Trust in the path, celebrate with joy. What might the wilderness teach us, where we pray to 1,000 stars to feel our own life's blessings, to know our own journey, lit from within? We take time to remember and celebrate with joy. And now, if you would please stand to affirm the principles we aspire to live by, the path that we choose to follow as a guide to growth and well-being. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and service is its practice. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. Thank you. Joseph's sermon this morning on trust and failure has been a challenge for me. What can I say to frame a sermon on such weighty topics? I haven't a clue. My thoughts turned initially to my personal story, the series of failures involving academic pursuits, career choices, financial decisions, and fractious relationships of all kinds, love life, family, and friends. Insights have accumulated, but so too has a trail of shame, resentment, regret, and the pain of so much loss. My mind knows that from failure comes success, but does my heart understand this paradoxical play? How do I come to acceptance, and what of the spurt of growth that may ensue? How does trust release us from the burden of failure? How do we access hope in times when we are tempted to despair? The lyrics
Patty?
of My Life Flows On in Endless Song are filled with joy and resistance, undeniable truths, and hope-filled demands. The third verse was written during the McCarthy era, I believe in 1937, to protest that outburst of paranoia and fear, which seems especially relevant to us right now. Please stand to sing hymn 108. John O'Donohue, Irish philosopher, mystic, and poet, has written a book of blessings. These are not poems, but rather supports in poetic language aimed at connecting individuals to what he calls the rhythms of the human journey. When we face crucial thresholds in our lives, we need protection and guidance as we cross over into the unknown. Here is his blessing for courage. When the light around you lessens and your thoughts darken until your body feels fear turn cold as a stone inside, when you find yourself bereft of any belief in yourself and all you unknowingly leaned on has fallen, when one voice commands your whole heart and it is raven dark, steady yourself and see that it is your own thinking that darkens your world. Search and you will find a diamond thought of light. Know that you are not alone and that this darkness has purpose. Gradually, it will school your eyes to find the one gift your life requires, hidden within this night corner. Invoke the learning of every suffering you have suffered. Close your eyes. Gather all the kindling about your heart to create one spark. That is all you need to nourish the flame that will cleanse the dark of its weight of festered fear. A new confidence will come alive to urge you toward higher ground, where your imagination will learn to engage difficulty as its most rewarding threshold. Please stand to sing hymn number 131, Love Will Guide Us. Fukuda, I think I pronounced that right, Fukuda Chioni is a renowned figure in 18th century Japanese literature, widely celebrated for her haiku poetry, which often explores themes of everyday life, nature's beauty, and Buddhist concepts of impermanence and enlightenment. While we pass the basket with gratitude for whatever you're able to offer in support of this congregation, Heidi will play Carolyn Bull's piece, Insect Talk, composed with this Chioni haiku in mind. Is there perhaps a paradox, a seeming contradiction in these simple lines? Hard the beggar's bed, but sociable and busy with insect talk. Thank you for your generosity. And now I welcome Joseph Bednarik.
Good morning, everyone. That was the jauntiest offertory music ever. So great. Wow. And what a gorgeous, gorgeous service today. This is really beautiful. Also, I just want to point out that sunflowers for me are a very important flower because it's the flower of Maud from Harold and Maude. And along with being a Unitarian Universalist or a Universalist Unitarian, I'm a modest. I am a devout modest. Speaking of which, I really, really, really wanted to compose and then deliver a sermon for you this morning called Trust Falls and Failure Bows, trust and failure being such gorgeous and meaty topics, or tofu-y topics for the vegans among us. And those two phrases, they're so catchy, right? And then their relationship to each other through that powerful connecting word, and it was just so compelling. I thought that I would explore those topics with nuance, with depth. Perhaps we would laugh together, cry together, we would sing, and along the way we would fill our sanctuary with overflowing thoughts and feelings to help build a strong and a joyous community. But that didn't happen. While you may have trusted that I would deliver something on this fine fall Sunday morning, I actually failed to write that sermon. Thank you. I failed. Well, that was interesting. More on failure bows in a short while. And please know that I was fibbing and play acting just there for effect for those literalists here. I actually did write a sermon, all right? And it begins with these three phrases: small crowd, deafening silence, minor crisis. Now, these figures of speech are examples of oxymorons, where contradictory terms with opposing meanings are brought together to tango or to waltz, perhaps even a jaunty polka, to create a colorful and a meaningful phrase, even if the discrete elements of the phrase work to cancel each other out. Now, there's a metaphor in there somewhere, and I think that in today's complex and complicated world, we all need to recognize, welcome, and judiciously employ oxymorons for their illogical color and spice and creative tension. So this morning, thinking about trust falls and failure bows, let's play with creative tension by sprinkling oxymorons throughout this sermon. And some are going to be so subtle you will not catch them. But to soften our ears to the oxymorons that will appear throughout the sermon, I offer this short sentence that contains 3 oxymorons. Well, if jumbo shrimp is the only choice, that's terribly good news. Jumbo shrimp, only choice, terribly good. And so what about the title of this morning's sermon, Trust Falls and Failure Bows? They're not oxymorons per se, but those words in relationship to each other, they do create phrases that can catalyze these compelling images and deep wonderments. And let's start with that first word combination, trust falls. Now, trust falls are used in all sorts of settings, and I suspect that many people here this morning have engaged in or witnessed trust falls at one time or another. Simply defined by our nearest and dearest 24/7 oracle, Wikipedia, quote, a trust fall is an activity in which a person deliberately falls, trusting the members of a group or their spotters to catch them. And it has also been considered a popular team-building exercise in corporate training events. The oracle continues. There are many variants of the trust fall. In one type, the group stands in a circle with one person in the middle with arms folded against his or her or their chest, and they fall in various directions, being pushed by the group back to a standing position before falling again. And in another variant, a person stands on an elevated position, or in an elevated position, such as a stage, a stepping stool, or a tree stump, and relies on multiple people to catch them. This variant is potentially more dangerous, and it often leads to injuries. Now, since Wikipedia is one of those things that is done by a zillion editors, my guess is that often leads to injuries was put in by an insurance adjuster, you know? Now, that last sentence puts trust into high relief through that tempered and hedgy word, potentially. Now, looking back over my life, I have realized that I have done several versions of trust falls in a variety of settings, from improv acting classes to team building exercises during organizational retreats. And I always found trust falls to be exhilarating, both as a faller and as a spotter. And I'm pleased to report that I have never personally experienced a near miss. And I was in a UU setting where I witnessed and was part of a profound and incredibly inspirational trust fall. It was a minor miracle that happened without happening. Sidebar here, for those of you who are tracking, there were two oxymorons in that last section. So sort of like bird watching or foraging for mushrooms, right? You got to stay alert. Now, this particular trust fall that I'm talking about happened over 20 years ago, when I served as a mentor for the Coming of Age program at my home Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Briefly described, the Coming of Age is a mentorship program within a UU congregation wherein adults are paired with a young teenager. And the program unfolds over 8 or 9 months and includes one-on-one hangout sessions, group activities, as well as structured conversations and these really, really fun homework assignments. Now, I was the presumed adult, and my mentee was a 14-year-old boy with a lively and curious mind and this big, compassionate heart. We got along great. We spent time together just goofing around, while also fulfilling the more serious and penetrating assignments of the curriculum, such as interviewing each other about our religious and spiritual beliefs. And now the secret sauce of the Coming of Age program is that both mentor and mentee have much to learn about themselves and each other within the larger context of the Coming of Age group, and within the even larger context of our congregation, within the larger context of the religion as a whole. And here are 3 terribly beautiful questions to give you a sense of what we were discussing. What are some of your beliefs about how humans should act? What are some of your beliefs about the origins of the universe? What are some of your beliefs about a higher power? And did you catch the format of those questions? Sort of serve as a chant. What are some of your beliefs about? What are some of your beliefs about? What are some of your beliefs about? And how wonderful in a religious setting to ask open-ended questions rather than dictate or instruct or cajole what your beliefs will be about. And not all your beliefs, just some of them. Now, all these questions are in service of the mentees writing a personal credo statement, an articulation of what they believe to this point in their life. So let's set the process of inquiry in relations to trust falls. Now, while a trust fall is physical, imagine being with someone as they try to figure out and articulate for the first time in their young life their thoughts and feelings about life's largest questions. To hear them wonder and double clutch, to spitball and shrug and try to articulate their beliefs. It can be a tender place to bump up against all the stuff that you have no good response for. And often these attempts lead to more questions, or your first or second attempt to answer leads to the edge of those murky, definite maybes. And in the absence of definitive answers. At best, the process inspired us to interrogate and to explore and to tend to our beliefs, or what we thought we believed, with the courage and the willingness to create more wonderments, which is a fancy word for confusion. Now, as a mentor, I joined the fun and I answered, or perhaps better yet, responded to all the questions as best I could for myself at that time without trying to influence my mentee. Now, that said, it is my unbiased opinion that one response to the first question, quote, what are some of your beliefs about how human beings should act, should be in a manner that should build, reinforce, and honor trust. Yes, I did echo the original question and employ that emphatic should language here. Don't should on yourself is one of my favorite phrases. Don't should on yourself. Now, this might sound like old news, but trust is, and I do see people writing down the oxymorons. Good for you for bird watching throughout this sermon. This might sound like old news, but trust is core to helping build and maintain strong and healthy communities. And I am with you in this gorgeous sanctuary as someone who wants to help build and maintain and sustain strong and healthy communities. Now, to build trust in our coming of age group, this small crowd of 20 adults and teenagers, we spent one sunny Sunday afternoon at a local challenge course, and that place lived up to its name. We were challenged. And there was one challenge in particular that I would like to share because being witness to it was truly one of the highlights for me of the coming of age program. And please know that I asked for and received permission to share this very tender and personal story. The exercise was a trust fall. And in this particular version of a trust fall, the person would stand on a raised platform with their back to the group, very rigid body, and fell backwards into this outstretched net that was held really taut by all your comrades, sort of like a mini version of a net that a trapeze artist would fall into. Now, several members of our coming of age group, all of whom were older adult mentors, declined to do a trust fall, usually for physical reasons, and that was perfectly okay. But all the young mentees wanted to do a trust fall. And as the exercise progressed, everyone who did a trust fall just spoke to how exhilarating it was. And one member of our group, young teenager, tried, but could not do it. Try as they might, and they tried mightily. They stood with their back to us, arms crossed, body rigid, and could not fall. I was one of the people holding the net and waiting. The person trying to fall had held the net for others, so they knew exactly what would happen because they had witnessed the experience with their own eyes. They had been one of the trusted. Everyone who fell was safely caught by the net, held strong by people who cared about them. Now, looking up at the platform, you could see the crossed arms, the backward fall begin, and then the catch, where they would stop themselves. They'd give a little shudder. They'd regain balance. They'd curse themselves under their breath. They'd regather. This person really, really, really wanted to fall. They really wanted to feel a trust fall. And you could see them getting more and more frustrated at not being able to fall, to release control, and to allow the fall to feel the catch. Finally, they gave up. They came off the platform, and they held the net for others. Please take that phrase home with you. They held the net for others. They themselves could not execute the trust fall, so they became one of the trusted. Now, there is a metaphor in there somewhere. And after a while, the facilitators, being talented facilitators, offered this person another chance to try, this time from a lower tier. Even then, the fall did not happen. Now, I stood witness to this private drama, just tears in my eyes. Not because the person was unsuccessful, but because we were watching someone face their fear, allowing us entrance into their life at a very deep level, to become very vulnerable and to grow before our eyes. They were truly challenged on this challenge course, and they met the challenge beautifully. Now, this happened nearly 20 years ago. I'm still thinking about it, obviously, and I'm still emotional about it, actually. And in reflecting on this incident in preparation for this sermon, for this oxymoronic sermon, I realized that our group could have gone farther to help this person to feel a trust fall by bringing the trust to them. Rather than the spotters holding the net and waiting with the net parallel to the ground, we could have brought the net up vertically to meet the person where they were standing and to gently and safely lower them down from vertical to horizontal. It would have been completely held from beginning to end. They would feel the weave of the net against their skin at all times. We could have moved together slowly and trustfully at that midpoint where you have that feeling of free fall, where gravity starts to take over. We could have played there, moving their body back and forth over that gravitational threshold. Now I can see this happening in my mind's eye, and I wish we would have thought of this. What an insight for the group, even though it came with a 20-year delay. Sometimes a trust fall does not involve falling at all. And the image of a safety net brings us to failure bows. We experienced a taste of a failure bow earlier in the sermon. Thank you, I failed. I learned about failure bows a little while ago while attending a benefit auction for a local nonprofit. The auctioneer was a person named Matt Smith, who was also an improv actor based in Seattle, and we got to talk, and I'm a big fan of improv. And he told me about a TEDx talk that he delivered about failure bows. Interesting phrase, I thought. And I have since watched his talk 7 or 8 times, and I've shared a link with my colleagues at work. I think failure bows are very, very powerful, and I encourage you all to watch the video for yourself. Matt Smith, failure bow, TEDx, you'll get there. Simply stated, a failure bow is a powerful physical recognition that you made a mistake, that you failed. Thank you, I failed. And once calling out that successful failure, then moving on, knowing that with every fiber of your being, that somewhere in your future is another mistake. There is another failure. Now, according to Matt Smith, the key element of a failure bow is, and I quote, please forgive the rough language, a dumbass grin. And what I love about that paradigm-shifting failure bow is that it is actually a salute. It is actually one of the power positions, like the Wonder Woman pose, or one of those salutations that gymnasts do at the end of a routine. And it also forces you to drop that wet sandbag of shame. Dropping the wet sandbag of shame and salute, which fearlessly exposes your heart to the world while also taking on a power pose. Thank you, I failed. And don't forget the dumbass grin. Now, Matt Smith noted in his TEDx talk about trapeze artists that they are naturals at failure bows. When they miss a move and they fall through the air into the safety net, they bounce on their feet, throw their hands up in proud salute, and then climb the ladder back up to the platform. You cannot easily climb a ladder back up when you are carrying a wet sandbag of shame. Now, another key element of a successful failure bow is when we applaud the failure bow. When we clap for someone when they're performing a failure bow. Matt Smith says, quote, "You're not rewarding the failure. You're rewarding the transparency. You're rewarding the availability. You're rewarding the accountability. And you're rewarding the willingness to be in the present moment." And now there is a tight weave of a trust fall safety net. The community recognizing and rewarding that mistakes and failure are part of growth. Drop the wet sandbag. We know you tried. Please, try again. And again. And again. And we offer you our applause each and every time. And so for those of you who were tracking the oxymorons that appeared in this sermon, I will see how well you did. Old news, small crowd, near miss, terribly beautiful, definite maybe, unbiased opinion, minor miracle. And we may have invented, with our safety net, within the safety net of this sanctuary, we may have invented a new one: successful failure. So let's all move forward, go forth into our oxymoronic week, building strong communities by trusting, by trying, by failing, by bowing, by applauding one another again and again and again. Thank you. I failed. Oh, man. That was so fun. So I am under someone gave me some information that last week you guys had a sing-along or some kind of service where new hymns were introduced, and that today, this morning, we're going to do one of those new hymns. So there's high expectations that everybody will rise to the occasion and meet this hymn with the best voice you possibly can offer this morning. It is called Pass on the Light. It is not in the hymnal. Words will be broadcast on the screen. Thanks.
Even when our hearts are broken by our own failure or the failure of others cutting into our lives, even when we have done all we can and life is still broken, there is a universal love that has never broken faith with us and never will.